Next time you're in Dollar Tree, head on over to the Craft Your Square section and grab you some wood pallets. Well, all the pallets, I say really, because you can never have enough of these in your stash. They're always my favorite items to create with. Well, from Dollar Tree, that is. We're going to need 3 pallets for this project and 2 of Dollar Tree's thicker pieces of wood. Now, interesting little piece of information. If you actually check the little labels on these joints, they say wood book. Okay, wood book. So if you go looking for them, that's what you look for on the label. We're going to be building a sideways wall shelf, and to get started, we're going to need to attach these and bring on in the finger sander to knock off the edges that are going to be meeting up in the center. And you can use hot glue to attach your pieces, but we're not going to do that. We're going to bring on in the drill bits, grab us a dowel, and find us some wire cutters to cut down some dowel joints. Now, if you have the actual dowel pieces for the joints that you can pick up at the hardware store, you go right ahead, but I customize mine very often. Well, that happened. And then sometimes I got to go search around the room to find them. In the event you don't want to do that, get a bag, a grocery bag. I had this little glass tunnel thing that I decided to pop them in. And in case you're wondering what a dowel joint is, it's really just a simple way for you to connect 2 pieces of wood together. That's it. There's different ways you can go about this, but since I usually have dowels laying around because I'm a crafter, I like doing the dowel joints because I can customize them and cut it however without having to grab different sizes and different pieces at the hardware store. I usually have the drill bits to cut down any size holes to match the dowels I have, if that makes sense. When you're all done cutting down your dowels or grabbing your dowels, it's time to bring on in the drill. Now, we're gonna bring this sucker in and find us a drill bit that is slightly bigger than our dowel. So once we have the hole in the wood, we can then easily fit the dowel inside of there with some glue and a little bit of wood shavings. And you want to put a little bit of wood shavings off to the side. I'll explain why later. Just, put a little pile there. Now, to make sure we have the same exact holes in the same exact spot, I'm just going to take a little dry eraser marker and do a little circle around our piece. And you got to be quick with it because this dries fast. Okay, you can use whatever method you want. You can do the painter's tape method if you want. I just decided to do this real quick, and then eye up our pieces and press them into one another. They left a tiny imprint, and then I was able to come back in with a pencil and make it a little bit deeper and then drill the holes in place. Once everything matched up, then it was time for me to assemble our piece. Now, I grabbed those dowels and popped them in here just to make sure that they fit and everything lined up the way that I wanted it to. Once I was happy with that, I grabbed my good old tight bond, quick and thick, and plopped some squirts in our holes. You can absolutely put some across the whole piece if you would like. I then stuck the dowel inside to get some glue on there. And remember that little pile of sawdust? We're going to just put some in there so it seals up any gapping that is between our dowel and the holes that we drilled. It also helps once we press that second piece of wood down on top to seal any gaps on in. When I was all done with that, I thought it was time to bring on in our stapler. Now, you can skip this part if you want, but I felt like we needed to plop a couple staples on in there. Okay, and then when I tested it, I felt like, let's put another one and then maybe another one just for good measure. You don't have to do any of this, but I needed extra security. I then grabbed me some clamps and put this to the side for it to dry for 24 hours. A couple hours would probably have been fine, but it just ended up being 24 hours for me. And then I took the clamps off and smacked the board a little bit. Sometimes you gotta smack your wood around, make sure it's gonna stay. And then it was time for the tricky part. Since we're creating a sideways or crooked shelf, you're going to want the actual shelf pieces to be level. So you're going to need to bust out a level and then take your time. You're going to put the level on each one of the little pallet shelves and adjust accordingly. See how I'm just doing this? I'm eyeballing it first, and then I grabbed the level, and then I was back. I was forth. I took the pencil. I don't have all the footage on film because I was turning the camera off, moving the camera. I was all over it, just trying to make sure. I was nervous I wasn't going to get these even. One of the shelves turned out a little bit more crooked than I would like, but you guys, you'll see. The idea is there. It's super cute. This piece turned out really great, and I love rustic pieces. So obviously I used my Type On Quick and Thick, and I used some hot glue. I made sure to put these down the exact spots that I had leveled out with my pencil marks. And sorry, my head, I told you I was all over the place. I had it up sideways, making sure I was doing my due diligence. I grabbed some little knobs I had in my stash. I attached them underneath each one of the little pallet shelves. And you can skip that part if you'd like. It's just something I wanted to add on there. And then it was time to put the hangers on the back. And you're going to also have to hang them the same way that you have the shelves hanging. I use sawtooth hammer and hangers that I get off Amazon in a pack. I added some vintage rusticy pieces to decorate this piece up. You could obviously use it for whatever you would like. Could be a practical little key holder by the door, but I absolutely love how this piece turned out. I know Dollar Tree has 2 different style palettes, but these are always easier for me to come up with ideas to create pieces with. For this large wall hanging sconce, we're going to need 3 pieces. Well, we're going to start off with 3 pieces and we're going to line them up like that, but they're not going to stay like that, okay? And then we're going to need to grab some popsicle sticks. That's right, popsicle sticks. And I know some of y'all want to write in the comments that it's a tongue depressor. Go right ahead. I'm still going to call it a popsicle stick. Do you? I cut the ends off and then cut them in half and put them right over the sections where the pallets meet up. Then I grabbed my Type On Quick and Thick so we could start attaching our pieces. Now you can put the Type On Quick and Thick in between the pallets as well for extra added security, completely up to you. And then for extra added security, we're going to bring on in the stapler. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. If you're fuzzy inside with just the Type On Quick and Thick, then leave it. When everything was dry, I grabbed my Waverly white paint and gave this a nice once over. Off camera, I was lining stuff up and realized that the piece was not long enough. So you'll see here that I added an extra piece off the camera, and I did the same thing with the back where I just put the popsicle sticks on there and used the stapler. You can absolutely leave this blank, but we're going to decoupage a little section on here using one of my TDS Creative Decoupage tissue papers. And I really just wanted to emphasize this beautiful clock on this piece with this beautiful rose. Feel like it will accent really well with the little hanging piece that I wanted to pop on here, also from Dollar Tree, by the way. So just trim this down to size to fit a small section of the pallets. This is going to be over top of the piece that we're going to create as the hanger. There were a couple little sections on the design that I didn't want on there, so I just tore them off and then grabbed some good old Mod Podge for my medium. Now I get asked often if you can use Elmer's glue to decoupage. If I was going to use Elmer's glue, which I have in the past, I use the glue that comes out of the bottle, the white stuff. I am not a purple stick glue girl. I am just not. I've tried it. It's not my cup of tea. You do you though. Once I had this all applied on here, I grabbed my little spray bottle and gave the back of this decoupage tissue paper a little spritzy spritz. You do not have to do this with my tissue paper. My tissue paper will apply perfectly dry. I just like to do this. I feel like it applies better even just using my fingers. It's just a preference, but it will work dry. And if you don't want to use this exact idea, you could absolutely grab some transfers, put a cute little saying over top here, take one of Dollar Tree's calendars and their pretty designs, pop on here. There's a bunch of different ways you can do this. Recreate it using exactly what you have at home, remixing the idea with what you have. Now I just wanted to get up close here so you could see how flawless this was with just using my finger and applying it. Once it was dry, I grabbed an X-Acto knife and went all the way across and then flipped it upside down and then cut the other side. Yes, you can use sandpaper if you want, but I think I've done, I don't even know how many palette projects. And for me, when I decoupage them, the X-Acto knife works better than trying to squeeze the sandpaper in there. But when I'm done, I do like bringing on in the little finger sander and going around getting any excess off that might be lingering after the X-Acto knife. I wanted to add a little something to the top, so I grabbed some of my jute cord from Dollar Tree and made a cute little design. I used my staple gun to make sure each little piece was put into place. If you wanted to wrap this around your piece, you could, but I was nervous since I'm hanging this on the wall that I would have a bunch of rope hanging out from the back. So I felt like this was the most efficient way to do this. I had this beautiful rusty gold hanger in my stash and popped this piece right on here. Feel free to use your screws and screw the piece in if you want it to. I just used some Gorilla Glue gel and then hung this beautiful little glass bottle on here from Dollar Tree. And I feel like this piece is so stunning. Need 6 of these to start out with, but we'll need 8 total. For this large wall shelf, you can remix the colors to fit whatever decor you would like. I'm going to keep mine neutral with a little bit of a modern touch, and we're going to start off by just flipping them over onto their backside. For the attachments, I'm going to start off by taking some Titebond Quick and Thick and putting it in all the little seams where these pallets are going to be attached to each other. When I was happy with how the first 4 were attached, I then brought on in the stapler. Now we're gonna need some extra attachments, just not some hot glue or some, wood glue. We need them staples. However, I wish I could make this stuff up. The stapler! It really is a stapler. I love the stapler though. But look at that, 2 at a time, come on. If that does ever happen to you, just grab a little hammer and just a little tappity tap 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 and it'll go right on down. I let that dry for about 30 minutes and then grabbed 2 more pallets. Added some more wood glue to the bottom here. And people, I'm going to be so real with y'all. I did not measure this, but you can see that I am putting staples up through. I eyeballed it. I wung it. And I wung it so good. I rarely ever wing stuff enough that I don't have staples popping through where I don't want them. But for this one, I did pretty good. Then I took some more of that wood glue and put on the sections of the bottom that I knew were going to touch these other 2 pallets. So this way we had more pallets underneath the shelf lip that we created. I even grabbed a little paintbrush and took a minute just kind of painting it on there. And I let that dry for about 30 minutes. And then I went and found my miter shears and brought them on in. So we could cut down these square dowel rods I picked up from Hobby Lobby. Now you can get these types of things at Walmart and Home Depot. And if you don't want to use these, you could absolutely take some towering tumbling blocks and line your shelf on the edges with those. But as you see here, it's just simpler for me to kind of take this one whole piece and then chop it down where I need to be able to attach it. And believe it or not, people, these particular dowels at Hobby Lobby were only 99 cents. Now they have different sizes, so the prices range, but for 99 cents, I grabbed them joints. Plus they're gonna work perfectly for our frame. And for that modern touch, I'm just giving them a nice coat of black paint. To attach the frame, I just used some more of that wood glue with a little bit of hot glue for an instant hold and grabbed my sawtooth hammer and hangers. And I do believe these are down in my Amazon affiliate link in the description box to hammer in on the back. So this way we could hang our beautiful shelf on the wall. I think this would also look amazing if you pop some little hangers underneath of that shelf so you could hang your keys on there, and maybe even put a little hanger at the top right in the center and you could hang a little wreath on it. For this palette basket, we're gonna need 4 of these palettes from Dollar Tree. Now you can create the sides using whatever you would like, but we're gonna start out with the base using just these pieces. And we're gonna line them up just like this and grab us some Tight Bond, quick and thick, and some hot glue to start attaching everything together. Now keep in mind when you're doing this that there are gaps, so you're going to want to be mindful that you don't overspray the glue, and that's because it will absolutely stick to your table, your lamp, whatever you're gluing this on. I promise you it'll stick to it, and then it'll be a hot mess. Learn from my mistakes. It's also a good idea that if you notice it's smushing out, to clean it up. Okay, because even though you think you're okay because everything's attached, if you lay that down where you left glue sitting out, again, your piece might be glued to whatever it is. Let me explain something to you. Do whatever you want to do. just know you've been warned by me, okay? If you do not have a Home Depot local to you, which is where I went and grabbed some pretty little decorative trim for my palette box, okay, you could absolutely use paint sticks. That would absolutely be fine. Or large popsicle sticks. Again, completely up to you. But I use this, and then I cut it down to size, bringing on in our miter shears. You can use a miter box, whatever you want to cut down your trim. These actually work on this fairly easy. I just gotta squeeze a little extra. And then once I had that first piece cut off, I popped that on top of the next section, took my pencil, trimmed it down. Look at me measuring. I'm growing. It's only taken me years of DIYs to be using levels and measuring things. I mean, I still rather wing it and eyeball it, but you know, I make it look good in the video, don't I? Anyhow, at this point, I'm just going to take some of my Type On Quick and Thick and my hot glue and alternate it on the ends of these little pieces and create our palette effects. These were the perfect thickness for me. You could absolutely use your drill gun and pop screws in here if you'd like to, or use your nail gun and put nails in this. From prior experience, I know that this is going to work and this piece is going to hold up really, really well. I also feel like once these pieces were on here, that the piece was complete. It looked really good. I could have painted it up and left it just as it was. But people, I do a lot of reselling, which means I go to auctions, I go to estate sales. I have tons of extra little bits, and these handles that I picked up, they were meant to go on the side of this palette box. I just had to. I had to. I could not put these handles on here. I love them so much. And I did that with just some Type On Quick and Thick. I put a nice layer all on the inside of the handles, and I did let each side dry for like an entire day each, because I had to pop one side up and then I let that dry and then pop the other side up. If you wanted to, you could absolutely drill holes through this so you can switch out the handles that you put on the end of your piece. I finished this up with some antique Waverly wax. Absolutely paint this whatever color you think would match your home and your decor, but I personally love this with that rustic touch. If you're looking for more Dollar Tree DIY inspiration, check out this video right here. And as always, people, thank y'all so much for hanging out with me today. I appreciate you so much, and until next time.